Hello, parents and guardians of Year 12. The reason for these series of videos is just to bring you up to speed with expectations that we would expect of your sons and daughters whilst they're studying with us over the next 2 years. We would normally have an expectation evening, which would have run either last week or this week, obviously in person. But due to the current climate we are in, we're obviously in very much the virtual world. So please bear with us, and we will see how we get on. First thing I'd like to say is how great it is to see so many of the Year 11s who've returned to us. We've got a really, really good number of students who've come back, and also combined with that, about 15 external students who've joined us as well from both neighbouring schools and from out of county, which is really, really pleasing to see. The start of term for me has been actually one of the calmest in the 18 years I've been involved in the sixth form, both as tutor right the way through to my current role as head of sixth form. And while waters have chopped slightly in the last week or so, and I'm sure they will get stormier as the weeks and months go on, the initial start I have been immensely pleased with, and I'm so proud of the way that the Year 12 students have acquitted themselves in being punctual, focused, and really driven for the subjects that they have chosen. It's a testament to the fact that they are hungry to learn, and it's really, really pleasing to see. I think it's also pertinent to mention that the educational landscape has changed vastly over the last 5 years, and with it we have had to move with those educational changes. It's something that we pride ourselves on at NT6, and the systems that we have developed and adapted over these last five years in particular have been instrumental in us achieving the overall headline grades and figures which we have achieved with students. But what we've got to drill down is it's the fact that the individual students themselves are achieving and making every effort to get on to their next possible steps, be it university, apprenticeship, or employment. In terms of, just to give you some of the achievements and stats, so before 6-7 years ago, we were floundering in the sort of 20% A star to B mark, and I'm really proud to say that now for the last 5 years, we've been averaging an A star B rate of around 54%. Our vocational courses, distinction, star distinction, again, averaging around the 85% mark, which is immensely pleasing to see. And it means that individual students are meeting their targets. They are therefore accessing, for example, the entry requirements for the university courses that they want to study, and they're obviously making their next steps and onwards journeys. And it's really, really pleasing to be a part of that and able to help support and shape these young individuals into the, adults that they become very fast. It's also worth noting that even this last year, we had 35% of our students achieving Russell Group places at universities. We've also got Oxbridge and medical success. We've this year 2 Oxford scholars, as well as a dentist and a medic who've gone, which again is a programme which I think has been strongly supported by the Oxbridge programme, which James Hammersley runs within the sixth form. We pride ourselves on getting the right students on the right courses, and it's vitally important that we do that over this first month period. We have been monitoring your sons and daughters in terms of how they've been performing in their chosen subjects. In some cases, subjects have done tests or they've looked at homeworks, and certainly places on those courses are being reviewed as I speak, because what we would never want to do is set a student on a course to failure over a 2-year period, which obviously it now is with no AS sort of a halfway mark, shall we say. So it's vitally important that we do get it right from the outset, so that we're obviously not going to make any mistakes for these students long term. In terms of expectations, they're pretty straightforward. We expect students in 8:40 every day to register. Registration will be obviously done, and there's a full tutor program that runs Monday through to Friday, which is structured with set things happening on set days. Mondays usually being a briefing, albeit virtual in the current world. Tuesdays is usually Unifrog and UCAS, looking at those next steps. Wednesday we have a hard thinking day. Thursday is wellbeing, and Friday is a little bit more chilled with a quiz. Naturally, we expect 100% attendance to all lessons and to school, but I'm very aware and very realistic to say that that isn't necessarily always going to happen with every individual. So obviously, as a sixth form, we would certainly be targeting a minimum attendance of 95%. With systems in place, if obviously students go below this mark, which could hopefully help them in sort of catching up and maximising any work that might have been missed. Parent power, though, is critical in this system. I think Mr. Hammersley, to coin a phrase, has used the triangle of transparency, which is the communication between students, yourselves, and us as the sixth form team. And that three-way communication is absolutely vital if your sons and daughters are going to achieve over this next 2 years. In terms of a form structure, we're lucky enough to have 10 very well-trained tutors who've been with us now for a significant number of years and are very well versed with IAG for careers, and certainly from a university perspective in terms of the whole UCAS process. So, and we're also supported by a free support staff. Julie Selkirk, who's the sixth form administrator, as well as Joe Harbisher and Chris Rowlands, who are sixth form learning mentors with very specific roles within the sixth form, which I know they've made a video themselves to try and explain it in a little bit more detail for you. It wouldn't be right if I didn't mention regarding the dreaded word COVID-19. We have got as stricter protocols as we can put in place to try and safeguard both your sons and daughters, as well as the staff and other members of staff within the building. And it's important that obviously that conduct is followed as close to the letter as we possibly can. We also, it's worth noting, do have a plan should we get locked down and told to self-isolate, either as a sixth form bubble, as a sort of a year 12, 13 bubble, or as a whole school. And you know, that plan will be implemented straight away should that happen. If it is a year group lockdown, it will go through blended learning with staff delivering live lessons at the timetable slots of when those lessons would have obviously run. And naturally, if it went to a whole school lockdown, then it would become a purely online tutorial-based program, but again, running to the timetables which your sons and daughters will have. It's important that you know, your sons and daughters do follow the protocols we put in place. We obviously require hand sanitizing on entry to buildings, exit to buildings, entry and exit to lessons. If keyboards are being used from computers, they're to be wiped down both before and after, as well as any implements or equipment that's used in the lesson. The wearing of masks is not required in lessons, and staff remain 2 meters, or as best they can, 2 meters apart from students whilst in their teaching setting. However, I am strongly recommending that sixth formers wear masks when moving between lessons in corridors, and I have made it mandatory that they wear masks in the social space at break times and lunch times, at those set times. And it's important that if they want to remain in there, that those masks are worn. If not, they need to move off to obviously classrooms close to it. In terms of study periods, your son or daughter will more than likely be studying 3 subjects. So in terms of, if you go on the rule that there is 9 hours per subject, they will have 27 hours of contact time study with their subject tutors. That leaves, however, 23 hours of non-contact time. It's important that sixth formers understand from the outset that there is a requirement to do a significant amounts of work outside of the lesson in order to achieve those top grades of the A star to Bs and the distinctions and distinction stars. This is where we are very fortunate to have the likes of, as I've already said, Joe Harbisher and Chris Rowlands as our sixth form study supervisor and learning mentors. And they're on hand both to oversee those study periods, which are mandatory from periods 1 to 4, students signing out at lunchtime from 1:20. And they're there to help, they're there to assist. And as I will allude to a little bit later on, when testing comes in through midterms and PPEs, they are also on hand to help support liaise between subject tutors and your sons and daughters in terms of obviously hopefully bringing them up to speed with some intervention-based work. The other key things to remember is the fact that we have very much learnt very quickly over this last 6-7 months now in terms of online learning. And from a sixth form perspective, all subjects are now using Teams, where they are able to communicate with your sons and daughters through the team system, both for potentially lessons should that be needed, but also in terms of setting work, homeworks, etc. Everything is done in an online and virtual world. I think it's very important that that does happen, particularly in light of what happened to us as a school when we had the security breach back just before lockdown, unfortunately, where the system was hacked and certain students' work did get lost, which was on the main servers. Obviously, being in a virtual cloud environment, that obviously negates that ever happening again. So it's vitally important that students use this new system. It's also worth noting, probably certainly maybe less so at the minute because of the COVID times, but it's the work conflict, and it's the work conflict in terms of what I'm talking about, paid work that your son or daughter might be currently doing. It's worth noting statistically that for every 10 hours of work that your son or daughter will do outside of school, it usually equates to at least a 1 grade drop in their studies. So while it's important that they do learn some important life skills and earning some money, they also have to take that into account with regards to their academic studies as well, and make sure that obviously the two things are very much well balanced in order to obviously achieve the best success we can for your sons and daughters. In terms of monitoring, they will have at least 2 midterms as well as a pre-public exam. The midterm one is coming up around October half term. There's one just after Christmas, and then there'll be a further one during the spring term as well, which will be more of a full-blown sort of exam test with strict exam conditions to sort of start to help to prepare them, particularly in light of the fact that they actually haven't sat official exams in light of the GCSEs being cancelled this summer. We strictly focus on the analysis of these tests, and where need be, we'll provide and try and support with intervention, putting it in place for your son or daughter in order that they can move up and start to try and achieve their target or ALPS grades, which they will be held to. It is worth noting again that given the current circumstances and what happened last year, I have already said to them that they need to be working significantly hard from the outset, because what we can't guarantee is whether exams will or will not happen over this next 12 to 18 months. And if that be the case, then there is a high probability that internal testing and teacher assessed grades will be taken into account again in order to assess your son or daughter's ability levels within a subject. So again, not working hard and leaving it all to the last minute could end up with you falling foul of that system, just because of where we are with the current COVID situation. We just can't predict it or know what's going to happen. You will receive a progress report in the autumn term, and you'll receive a full-blown report in the spring term of 2021 as well. But also any student who goes onto the intervention list, we will obviously contact and update parents just to keep them in the loop and make them aware, obviously, of the fact that they are working on a slightly more bespoke program for a period of time until we can get the next data set in. In terms of higher education, I will be running well, it probably will be virtual, who knows where we'll be, but I will be running in the summer term a higher education evening, or it'll be an online talk, which will help support your son or daughter if they are thinking of going off to university or making higher education plans. I normally get Richard Press from the University of Exeter to come in as well, and he also can fill you in on the financial side and how that works for you both as parents and for the students themselves through that application process. So there'll be more to come on that, and a specific date either put in place or obviously posted online subsequently as and when the time arises. The other thing to remember is, although opportunities are potentially more limited because of COVID-19, and I'm thinking with regards to work-based placements, etc., it's vitally important that your son or daughter tries to go above and beyond, does more than just the 3 subjects that they're doing, and basically stands themselves out from the crowd. Everybody who will be applying for jobs or higher education, they're all going to have the equivalent of 3 A-levels. It's what, and they're probably going to be very good A-levels at that. What have you done extra that's going to stand you out from the crowd that will allow you to access that higher education course or that work-based employment place that you've so wanted? So as and when opportunities do arise, it's vitally important that you look for those, you take them and run with it. Examples could be, for example, Duke of Edinburgh, volunteering, going out finding some work placements which are closely akin or linked to your potential chosen vocation career. The list is limitless. The only limit would be what is and isn't accessible given the current climate. So vitally important that they look to do that, particularly in year 12, because they'll be writing personal statements, CVs, ready for that application life after year 13 at the start of year 13. And if obviously nothing has happened in that year 12 year, they're going to be a little bit limited on what they can and can't talk about. So it's very much worth their while seeing what's out there and accessing it and being very proactive about it. Well, I hope it's been informative. It's very important, I think, that you look at the other videos, such as to do with ABBA. We've obviously got the Oxbridge, we've got the Learning Mentors, and we've obviously got Julie Selkirk talking with regards to bursary and her role with mental health and wellbeing. So please look at all the videos. I hope you find them informative. And again, if you have any questions at any point, please don't hesitate to contact the sixth form team on 01637 872 080 and its extension 2227, or emailing us at nt6@treferris.net. Okay, take care all, stay safe, and I hope to see you in person sometime soon.